dedicated practitioner in the fields of sound and energy wellness. Her journey began more than a decade ago when she became a Reiki master, opening the door to a deeper exploration of holistic well being and the body's innate capacity for balance, restoration, and healing. That path eventually led her to the transformative world of sound. Sonia is a certified sound practitioner through the International Sound Therapy Association, a certified biofield tuning practitioner, a sonic anatomy toning guide, and a quantum healing practitioner. She has extensive professional training in therapeutic sound work with crystal singing bowls, gongs, tuning forks, Native American flutes, and other healing instruments. Through her sound journey meditations, biofield tuning sessions, and sound-based wellness events, Sonia blends science-informed sound practices with energy-based modalities to create deeply restorative experiences. Please join me in welcoming Sonia Stingo.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. So I'm so excited about today's talk. This is really my passion, how sound affects the human body, the science specifically of vibration, resonance, and healing. And this is really what I believe in. Sound is not only something we hear, it's something we experience throughout the body as vibration, rhythm, and resonance. So we have a lot of information to go through today. I'm going to say if we can save questions till the end, hopefully we'll have a few minutes for those. I have put out tuning forks on the table. You guys will be using those in a little bit. We're going to go through that as well. But in the meantime, let's begin by telling you that most of the information that you're going to be hearing from today was researched by John Stuart Reid. He's an acoustic physics researcher. Yes, there is such a thing. And he studied the physics of sound for over 4 decades. He's a respected authority in the field of cymatics. He's one of only 2 people that have studied acoustics in the Great Pyramid. And in 1997, he conducted a series of groundbreaking experiments, basically, in the pyramid's king's chamber. And it led him to invent something called the cymoscope, which is a device that makes sound visible to us. Having experienced his own healing in that king's chamber, he had very bad back pain, lower back pain, which went away. He began researching the field of sound healing, and he's still doing that today. So let's start with something really simple. What is sound? It's physical energy, right? It's a mechanical vibration. It travels through the air, it travels through water, through our body tissues, and your body is always physically receiving sound. So here's a fun fact. For practical purposes, they always show sound as a one-dimensional wave, but really sound is spherical. So when you talk, there's a bubble coming out of your mouth. Isn't that crazy? So our bodies are already rhythmic, electric, and resonant. They're teeming with biofields. And a biofield is a natural occurring, measurable electromagnetic and magnetic field. And it's generated by our own body's cells, tissues, organs. The actual term biofield was coined in the 1990s by the National Institute of Health. Isn't that interesting? Our cells rely on electrical charges to function. And honestly, according to the Heart Math Institute, our heart's magnetic field extends out in all directions and can be measured several feet away from the body. Every physical structure in our bodies has a natural resonance. That's this side of the screen. They've been measured, right? This includes tissues, bones, organs, even the cavities of our bodies has its own natural frequency. And because sound is mechanical, it can physically interact with these biological structures. So this is really interesting. They found out that cells can sync. So Professor James Gomzewski of UCLA in early 2000 was able to hear for the first time the sound of a living cell. And what's interesting is because they found out that it's in the audible range. So if our ears were sensitive enough, we'd actually be able to hear ourselves. Can you imagine the cacophony that would be? But we're going to listen, if I can get this going, to the sound of a living cell right now. That's a cell. That's not your heartbeat. That's one cell. And what's really cool, the visual is thanks to John Stuart Reid's cimoscope. You're seeing what the sound is doing, physically speaking, to that cell. That wild? Okay. Let's see. Okay, good. That worked. Now, we move on to humming, sound, and nitric oxide production. This is really cool. Nitric oxide is produced in the paranasal cavities, right? That's the cavity that contributes to the timbre of our voices. And it acts as a natural antimicrobial, right? So prevents, kills fungi, viruses, bacteria. It widens our airways. It improves oxygen uptake and dilates blood vessels to enhance lung circulation. Just natural breathing increases our NO production, but it can be enhanced by just humming or singing, which is why Yacht Rock is so awesome. I think that's why people love singing, right? That's one of the reasons why people love to hum or sing or tone, because it takes these practices to naturally engage with the physiology that your body is built to do, right? Sonic stimulation can increase NO production by up to 20 times. That's just by humming or toning. Isn't that wild? So I'm a sonic anatomy tone guide. This was a practice developed between Eileen McCusack, who I'll introduce you to later, and the Corin brothers. It's really, they came up with a methodology by certain tones affect certain areas of the body. It's very therapeutic, very cathartic. Wish I could do it with you guys today, but we don't have time, but wanted to share that with you. So speaking of nitric oxide production, passively immersing your body with live music, including things like gong baths or singing bowls, it has extreme beneficial, aspects for the NO production. Interestingly enough, frequencies for within what's called like the Goldilocks zone, it's like 70 to 85 decibels, automatically stimulate NO production. Gongs are an especially interesting instrument because they generate thousands of frequencies when you hit one. It's different than a crystal singing bowl, which is pure in its tone. These emit thousands of frequencies. That heavy bass and sub frequency pulse through the body, which further stimulate the cellular nitric oxide production. So you can have more nitric oxide by doing exercising, right? So exercising because you're breathing harder will produce it. But also, if you're in nature and you're by a waterfall or by the ocean waves, that will also produce nitric oxide. So it's for this reason, really, that full body immersions are very different than experiencing this stuff through headphones. Your body is physically receiving and responding to these vibrations. Then we come to fascia and the nervous system. So the fascia is really the body's communication network, right? It surrounds and connects muscles, organs from head to toe. The fascia is essentially liquid crystal that conducts electricity just like quartz does, meaning it can generate electrical activity when mechanically stimulated. Fascia functions as the body's meridian system and responds to sound and electromagnetic stimulation. Then there's the vagus nerve, and we all know about the vagus nerve, right? It's the longest nerve in the autonomic nervous system in the body. It runs from the brainstem down the neck, down the chest, all the way to the abdomen. And it's really this bi-directional communication highway. It controls all sorts of involuntary functions like heart rate, digestion, breathing, immune response, and mood. And good vagal tone really leads to better emotional regulation, cardiovascular health, resilience to stress. We've all heard about the sympathetic and the parasympathetic aspect of the vagus nerve, right? There's the fight or flight response, rest and digest. And by applying certain frequencies to the body, you can actually shift that mode. What's interesting about tuning forks is that they provide a precise vibrational input that can be applied directly to the body or in the surrounding field. And those focus frequencies make them useful tools for exploring how sound interacts with either fascia or the nervous system. And speaking of tuning forks, so tuning forks is therapeutic sound tools. So Eileen McCusack is a pioneering researcher, author, educator. She's been studying the effects of sound on the human body since 1996. She developed what's known today as the biofield tuning method, and it's really a sound therapy that works with both our electrical current that runs through our body as well as the magnetic field that surrounds our body. And in her work, she sees these two factors as inextricably connected with our conscious and subconscious minds, including our memories. Now, tuning forks have been used in medicine for a very long time. They're used in clinical settings, right, to assess the nervous system. They've been used by orthopedic surgeons, and they're used by physical therapists as well. Interestingly enough, studies done with biofield tuning participants have shown increased reduction in stress and anxiety levels. And we're going to do a little thing with it next. But first, I want to cover brainwaves because this is the part that's going to blow you away. So we all know brainwaves, right? You're in delta if you're in deep sleep. That means your brain is vibrating between 1 to 4 hertz of frequency versus gamma if you're in a high cognitive state, higher than 30 hertz. Well, brain entrainment is the process by which your brain's electrical activity, meaning these brain states, synchronize to the rhythm of external stimuli. This phenomenon allows the brain to mirror the specific frequencies and entrains as a tool to use the desired brainwave, right? Whether it's deep sleep, rest, or high functioning cognition. So, fun fact, if you put a 100 hertz frequency to your left ear and a 104 hertz frequency to your right ear, your brain will create a 4 hertz beat. It's kind of cool. Yes, that's called a binaural beat. So the great thing about the binaural beats is that it allows you to encourage the brain to match that frequency. That 4 hertz differential makes your brain go, oh, I want to be in deep sleep, right? And that's what it starts in training to. So we're going to play with the tuning forks for a minute. Everybody, some of you guys have them in front of you. Everybody can try this and pass it along. Oh, you have to use them in pairs. Yeah, you have to use them in pairs. That's okay. You can try it and pass it along to your neighbor. I'm going to play over here with my friend Sharon. But you guys grab a pair, just grab a pair from the table. So you're going to hold them by the stem and you want to activate them. And this is how you activate them. This is the barrel. You want to hit the barrel on the hard part there, get it vibrating, hit it on the hard part there. And then you're going to place it right outside your ear like this and just listen to that hum. Okay? Ready, Sharon? I'm going to do it for you. You want the stems.
Oh, that'll help, right?
It's okay. I'm going to do it. Ready? You got it. You hear that? Mm-hmm. Who needs forks? I'll do it for you. Ready? Do you hear that? Mm-hmm. Hear the hum? Mm-hmm. That hum doesn't exist. That hum's being created by your brain. Is that wild? Here's more. Whoever didn't try it. You could easily buy those and use them. I actually use them at night. That's actually a good thing. I do this at night right before bedtime, 3 or 4 minutes, not that long, and really puts me right out. Okay, my favorite slide, seeing sound, cymatics. So cymatics is the science where sound interacts with gaseous, particulate, or liquid matter, and it causes the matter to become organized into a form that creates complex geometric patterns, which is very cool. Okay, the image on the left is called The Sound of the Sun, and it was obtained from the SOHO spacecraft that launched in 1995 to study the sun, and the image was made possible by the CymaScope, John Stuart Reid CymaScope. That's what the sound of the sun looks like. Isn't that beautiful? Here's one of the most striking examples of sound interacting with biology. The image in the center is the cymoglyph capturing the voice of the performer called Anders Holt, imprinting through his cymoscope on a single red blood cell. And that's the geometric pattern that resulted. What's really cool is the last picture. This is what remains when the vocalization stopped for many minutes, but the imprint of the oxygen-rich hemoglobin molecule remains. Do you see the star? Isn't that wild? Okay. All right. I'm going to show you one more thing before I go there. And that is this video, which is science. This is not AI. This is actually real. We're going to watch it. I'm not going to show the whole thing. Is it working? There you go.
The film we are about to see has no characters. If you spare a little of your imagination, it is a film to describe to you the effect of cymatic frequencies on matter. Everything owes existence solely, completely to sound.
That's pretty cool, right? I first saw that in one of my sound classes, and it just blew my mind because you don't realize that that's what sound is doing, right? No one knows really this. Like you just think it's something you hear and you don't realize how it's impacting everything physically around us. So just to wrap up what science tells us, sound therapy can help with stress reduction, anxiety support, pain management, sleep support, physiological improvements, and cognitive enhancements. And I'm happy to answer any questions that you have. Thank you.
Do you know if the liquid in the last video was ferrofluid?
It might be.
Okay, it looked like ferrofluid.
It does
so,
actually.
okay.
Yes, it might be. Yeah, that was a good catch.
So I was figured out on that.
I was wondering about the sound of our voices, and also, people talk about, well, the sound of our voices, and like I do meditations with people, and just like how I drop into this tone, which is
Yes.
loving or whatever.
Yes.
And then you hear, when there's bickering, there's a tone, or it's like it's not what you said, it's how you said it. So just any thoughts on that tone or
So what's really interesting about what you said is, sound can be healing, but sound can also be destructive. It depends on how it's being used and actually the frequencies of which it's being used for. So I think that certain frequencies in your voice, when that changes, the timbre of it, if there's bickering, I think that's certainly something that contributes to that. Unfortunately, the Nazis did horrible experimentation with sound in the other direction to see how it could hurt. So sound certainly has both sides of the equation, right?
as
But
does anything.
as
Right?
does anything, I completely, 100%. Yes, that's a great question, though. Thank you. Yes, ma'am.
What is vocal toning?
Vocal toning could be something as simple as ah, oh, like very simple. It's one note. It doesn't have to be. It's not singing. It's not performative. Right. Humming could be the same thing. Toning is more of saying a particular vowel sound, like yar. Right. So the sonic anatomy guides are really about particular tones that you say, and they relate those to different body parts.
I love this
Oh.
so much. When we just listened to that, I was buzzing from my head to the top of my
Oh,
head.
cool.
And it's so interesting. I live with my great nephew and whatever. And when I'm holding him for nap, I notice like when I am talking in a certain tone to him, it's just just in general to anybody, but to him, it like just helps him go.
Absolutely.
Consistent tone in what I'm saying to him, and it's like beautiful.
That's wonderful. How beautiful. Yeah. Thank
Do
you.
you have a recommendation of something that we can listen to at home that's sound therapy? Maybe like is there something online?
There's a lot of stuff on YouTube, and you could easily, Google stuff. There's crystal singing bowls, there's gongs they do online, all of that. The difference is it depends on your headphones. So, and he's an acoustics researcher, so this is really important to him. The headphones are the most important thing when you're listening to that type of stuff. Also, stuff that's recorded on YouTube, and I'm not going to geek out on you, but it's compressed. So it does not have, so it does not have the same type of effect as if a proper MP3 recording does. Do you see what I mean? So that's why listening to things on YouTube, it's nice, but it's not quite the same impact. Yes. Exactly. Yes. Yeah. Yeah, it depends on how they record. But he spoke to YouTube directly. But like if you actually have MP3s specifically of particular pieces, that's even better. It does. And also how it was recorded. If the binaural beat isn't recorded correctly, It has to be recorded in a particular way in the sound studio for it to come through correctly on the headphones. That's not always the case on YouTube. So it just depends. But the great thing about these is you don't have to rely on something like that. You know, you just do it yourself because you're getting it through bone conduction. That's the other thing. When you get it through auditory, it depends on the space that you're in and the room and the acoustics of the room. It might dilate the binaural beat, but when you get it through bone conduction, it's a different story.
That was awesome.